stupid Ronin. It seems you don't really understand how terrifying the background of this transcendent force is. Even if an ignorant wanderer like you have great power in this apocalypse, it will amount to nothing in the end, and you will die sooner or later. Obviously, Feng Guangyu and Jin failed to instigate the Tianlong pirates. So, with a disappointed look, he turned to leave the cave, believing that the infamous Heavenly Dragon King was nothing but a cowardly pirate. But since he was there, he might as well try to gather some useful information so his trip won't be in vain. However, just as Feng Guangyu and Jin walked out of the cave, a strange sight followed his back from the crowd behind him. Li Fengxian immediately noticed that some of his subordinates were tempted. After all, their mortal enemy has always been the navy of a big country, mainly due to the fact that a ship from any big country is equipped with the most advanced weapons and can destroy their huge fleet of old-fashioned miscellaneous brands. As a result, the Tianlong pirates had been active in the Starry Sea, near the coast, but never dare to approach the deep sea area with clear boundaries. Listen to me, all of you guys, the Dragon King roared. Without my permission, no one is allowed to have any form of contact with that group of Ronin again. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. After hearing this command, everyone below hurriedly lowered their heads to show their submission. But mostly in these situations, there's always bound to be someone who gets blinded by greed. And in this case, it was the captain of the 4th Division, Canute. With sharp eyes and a skinny frame like a devil, Canute finds Feng Guangyu and Jin to be quite interesting. He quickly sent a message to a subordinate under his division to secretly intercept the Japanese wanderer. Canute believes that if he could cooperate with the Ronin organization to take over Huashu country, the Heavenly Dragon King will definitely look at him with new eyes. Anyway, the moment Feng Guangyu and Jin left the cave, Deluna, a member of the 4th Division, secretly intercepted Feng Guangyu and Jin in an inconspicuous setting. Curious about Deluna's presence, Feng Guangyu and Jin asked which captain sent him, but Deluna simply pulled out a gun from the breast pocket of his heavy jacket and aimed it at the Ronin's head. He playfully replied that if the Ronin wanderer wants to find out, then he should obediently come with him. Sure, I just hope that you guys won't let me down. A smile flashed in Feng Guangyu and Jin's eyes. These bloody fucking pirates will always be the same. He knew that those greedy and arrogant pirates would not be indifferent to his words. No matter how much the Celestial Dragon King forbids, there will always be people who dare to take risks. Otherwise, they are not pirates. Feng Guangyu and Jin followed Deluna into a car behind him. Inside, Deluna tossed a blindfold on his lap and simply explained that there were rules for outsiders not to know their location. Of course, Feng Guangyu and Jin understood this and simply wore the blindfold without any fuss. Seeing this, Deluna then ordered the chauffeur to move. They wandered around Tianlong Island for a long time before finally coming to a stop at a huge ironclad ship. This was the location of the 4th Division of the Tianlong Pirates, and the huge ironclad ship was the flagship of the 4th Division Captain Canute. Getting out of the car, Feng Guangyu and Jin took off the blindfold when he was finally told to do so. He stood face to face with Canute and asked who he was. But the thin, middle-aged man with a hooked nose brushed off the question and asked his own. Ronin, are the words you said in front of the Dragon King true? Is the Jiangnan region really as weak as you said? The grin on Feng Guangyu and Jin's face deepened. He opened his arms and said seriously, of course not. If we engage in a head-on confrontation with them, such as directly attacking their headquarters in Blizzard City, then we have no chance of winning. I am very clear about this, but his voice raised several decibels. Their territory is too large. It is larger than an ordinary country, but they don't have enough manpower to defend every piece of land. Feng Guangyu and Jin stretched out his hand to Canute. We are not stupid enough to fight them head-on. We just need to keep harassing them and eat away at them bit by bit. Then we can get everything we want. If we, the Eclipse Moon, act on our own, what we will gain will be limited. That's why I came to you for cooperation. With the strength of your Tianlong pirates, you will definitely be able to plunder a lot. Feng Guangyu and Jin shrugged his shoulders and said with a little regret, it's a pity that I overestimated the courage of the Tianlong King. Canute's eyes flashed with murderous intent, and he shouted loudly, shut up! Who do you think you are? How dare you judge our king? Seeing this, Feng Guangyu and Jin smiled lightly and raised his open palms in a form of an apology. Sorry, I don't mean to offend anyone. I just feel regretful that if such a good opportunity is missed, there will be no second time. He maintained his smile and added that it was just difficult for him to find helpers like Canute. Canute narrowed his eyes and folded his arms with worry. If we depart for the Jiangnan region through the southern waters, then our biggest trouble is their navy. Do you have a way to help us bypass their navy's patrol? Of course. Feng Guangyu and Jin nodded slightly with a smile. If it can't be done, Then how did our Eclipse team manage to land on that land? Inwardly, he knew that with Mayumi Takeuchi, they can avoid all dangers, although Zhang Yi's time is the only exception. Interesting, really interesting. Canute stared at Feng Guangyu and Jin with cold eyes for a long time. Then he smiled mischievously. In that case, let's do it together. After hearing Feng Guangyu and Jin's explanation, Canute's desire in his heart grew even stronger. He had heard about the Eclipse group making trouble in the Jiangnan region. In his opinion, if a mere 13 Ronin organization could cause a headache for the Jiangnan region, then his powerful 4th Division with thousands of pirates and more than 30 of them being powerful mutants can invade a big country. If he can cooperate with Eclipse Moon and go to that rich land to plunder, his name will be known to the world in the future. It is even possible that he will be valued by the Heavenly Dragon King and become the boss of the 7 ship divisions. Then I wish us a happy cooperation. Feng Guangyu and Jin smiled and raised his hand for a gentleman's handshake. But before he finished speaking, a cold pistol was directly aimed closely at his forehead. Don't play tricks with me, otherwise I will kill you off with my own hands. Feng Guangyu and Jin ignored the threat and replied that they were partners now, and he doesn't cheat his partners. Meanwhile, as the scene shifted back to Zhang Yi's side, he had just returned to Blizzard City, and in addition to Liang Yu and Flower, he brought Yang Xinxin along. Zhang Yi was a bit surprised to see a familiar face, in a familiar tailored suit the very moment they exit the subway station. Mr. Zhang Yi, we were sent by Mr. Deng Yuanhua. He wants to invite you to have lunch with him if that's convenient for you. Another invitation? And this time around, it's from the head of the Deng family. He had no connection with the Deng family. So after a brief thought, he guessed Deng Yuanhua's purpose might be related to his nephew's death. The Deng family, after all, had a great influence in the Jiangnan region. So naturally, he had to give them face. Is it convenient for me to bring a few friends? The guard looked at the 2 women and nodded slightly. Of course. Everyone, please follow me. His task was just to invite Zhang Yi over. As for whether Zhang Yi brought people or not, it would not affect the main outcome. The 3 followed him into a car. And as the car drove towards the Deng garden, along the road that Zhang Yi was somewhat familiar with, he silently took out his satellite phone. He gave Liang Yu and Yang Xinxin a look, and they immediately understood what he meant. This was to communicate through text. The first text was from Zhang Yi, asking about their opinion on the sudden invitation. Do they think the Deng family are well-intentioned, or do they have bad intentions? Liang Yu frowned, thought for a while, and replied that she didn't know. Yang Xinxin smiled, and she quickly typed 2 words on her phone. Win over. Zhang Yi glanced at her and asked her to elaborate. Yang Xinxin showed a mysterious smile at the corner of her mouth and explained. According to the current intelligence, there are not many top combat forces in Blizzard City. The known ones are the 6 major investigation team leaders, the director of the operations department Tu Yunlai, and the guard Sun Lushuan beside Zhu Zheng. Based on the management model of Blizzard City, it is unlikely that there are hidden strongmen. Even if there are not many. And the Deng family relies heavily on Deng Shintong, a top ability user, to maintain their Deng family status. But now, Deng Shintong has died in battle. This will have a very serious impact on the Deng family. Coupled with the death of Bian Junwu before, the balance of Blizzard City has serious problems. Perhaps the time for a new reshuffle is coming. The Deng family invited you, big brother, to come over, meaning they intend to win you over and make you their man. Yang Xinxin's analysis was very reasonable, which made Zhang Yi feel a little more relaxed. In the future, top combat power will determine the strength of a force. Ordinary soldiers, even hot weapons, are slowly losing their dominance on the battlefield. If not, how could 13 people of Eclipse Moon be so arrogant in the Jiangnan region? He wants to win me over, right? Zhang Yi frowned and reiterated that he truly doesn't want to get involved in the power struggle in Blizzard City. Yang Xinxin thought for a while and suggested that he could just test the other party's attitude first. Anyway, it is the Deng family who needs your help now. Even if you want to refuse, as long as you leave them room for imagination, they will not make things difficult for you. Zhang Yi sighed heavily in understanding. He still understood the rules of these social etiquettes, but he finds the situation to be extremely funny. It was the end of the world, but they still have to pay attention to the social systems and human relationships. More than half an hour later, the car arrived at Deng Garden. It was still a familiar place, but when Zhang Yi arrived, he felt that it was a bit more desolate and solemn. Even the expressions of the guards of the Deng family seemed to be a bit more serious. The defeat of the God Squad and the death of Deng Shintong cast a heavy haze on the family. And this emotion has spread to this day and is difficult to dissipate. The moment they entered the living room of the main building, They were greeted by dozens of beautiful maids in Cheongsam standing on both sides, respectfully welcoming them. "Welcome, Mr. Zhang Yi, Miss Yang and Miss Liang." The room was magnificent, and the end couldn't even be seen at a glance. It was hard to imagine how big the space was. Coupled with these beautiful women, Zhang Yi deeply felt Deng Yuanbua's sincerity. Yang Xinxin, on the other hand, frowned slightly, not liking the Deng family's welcome. She felt that the entire experience was like a beauty trap and too ostentatious. Lian Cheng, dressed in an elegant suit with his elegant temperament and a gentlemanly appearance, officially announced, "Mr. Zhang, lovely young ladies, welcome to Deng Garden. Our master has prepared a sumptuous lunch and invites you all to join him." Zhang Yi and the other two followed Lian Cheng silently until he finally opened two massive doors to Deng Yuanbua's residence. Zhang Yi felt a little strange. After all, Deng Shintong's body is still warm. So was it really appropriate to make such a lively scene for just an ordinary warehouse manager? Or could it be that the old man likes lively scenes? If it's the latter, then it's understandable. You see, after the Ice Age, many people began to like this flame-like red, because after seeing it, they feel some warmth on the psychological level. Deng Yuanbua, wearing his usual tang suit, stood near a massive window when Lian Cheng respectfully announced, "Mr. Deng, Mr. Zhang Yi, and the others are here." Zhang Yi politely greeted Deng Yuanbua and apologized for any inconvenience. Yang Xinxin and Liang Yu did the same, although their tone sounded indifferent. Deng Yuanbua looked at them with a smile and replied that it was okay. He is actually glad that they accepted his invitation. "Come on, please take a seat. Don't be restrained." He gestured to the small round table in front of them with a smile. "Zhang Yi, you and my nephew Deng Shentong are acquainted, right? So, if you don't mind, you can call me Uncle Deng." Zhang Yi was a little surprised. Deng Yuanbua tried to get closer to him as soon as he came up. It seemed that he was trying to win over Zhang Yi, just like what Yang Xinxin said. Zhang Yi smiled and nodded slightly. He didn't have an issue in calling Deng Yuanbua uncle. Besides, he fits the bill anyway. Deng Yuanbua clapped his hands and almost immediately, a beautiful maid in a cheongsam came to Zhang Yi's side with a plate. There was a box on the plate. "This is a gift for meeting you. I hope you don't mind. Oh, and as for the two women, there will be gifts for them later." Deng Yuanbua's attitude was directly revealed, and he was almost undisguised in trying to win over Zhang Yi. "Uncle Deng, what is this?" Zhang Yi remained alert, although he was very curious. What exactly was this gift for? After all, he didn't think he was missing anything now. Deng Yuanbua saw the disapproval in Zhang Yi's eyes and found it a bit amusing. "Poor child, you have suffered more than half a year outside, and you haven't had a good life. The things in it," he pointed to the box, "can save you half a year to improve your strength." The expression on the faces of the three, especially Zhang Yi's face, froze for a moment. "Really, it can improve my strength?" Zhang Yi looked at Deng Yuanbua in disbelief. "Of course, you think that mutants can only improve their strength by devouring the essence of other mutants, right?" Zhang Yi smiled and nodded slightly. "That's right." Deng Yuanbua smiled proudly, pointed to the box on the plate and stated calmly, "In theory, that's true. But this method is no different from eating wild animals. And the biggest difference between us humans and wild animals is that we know how to use tools. This thing is called Compound X, and it can only be produced by our Deng family. After using it, the strength of a mutant can be quickly improved." Zhang Yi nodded thoughtfully. "I understand. It seems this is also the reason why the population of Blizzard City is not too large, but there are a large number of elite mutants, right?" Deng Yuanbua couldn't help but sigh. "Yes, the world is vast with countless talented people, but majority of them seems to have gathered in Blizzard City, mainly because once the potential of the mutants here is discovered, they get the best resources to cultivate to become very powerful. Perhaps you have been around mutants who are not weaker than an investigation team leader. However, before they had time to awaken their superpowers, they had died in various crises." Zhang Yi totally agrees. Sure enough, it is very important to be born in a good place. Although he appeared to be calm, Zhang Yi's mind was still on the X compound, so he asked curiously, "Uncle Deng, how much can this compound improve a person's strength?" Zhang Yi has now reached a bottleneck in his strength, so he was very skeptical about the efficacy of this compound. Deng Yuanbua replied with his usual smile, "Let's put it this way, you know my nephew, right? He was able to grow rapidly to his current strength because of this thing." A look of astonishment flashed across Zhang Yi's eyes. "The strength of an investigation captain's level can also be obtained by drugs? Then does this drug also have side effects like the one used by Bian Junwu?" Deng Yuanbua saw that Zhang Yi had some concerns and addressed them immediately. "This medicine has no side effects. In fact, the effect of this drug is the same as the co-devouring ability between mutants. It's just that we used scientific means to extract the source of the superpowers so that you can absorb it better. Zhang Yi had never trusted anyone easily. What's more, this was the first meeting between the two. Yet Deng Yuanhua wants to give him such an expensive gift. The entire scene was like a weasel paying a New Year's greeting to a chicken. Zhang Yi decided to refuse it. Such a gift is too expensive, Uncle Deng, so I dare not accept it. Zhang Yi smiled and declined. Who knows if this thing has any toxins? What if he uses it and is controlled by the Deng family? Deng Yuanhua understood the situation and spoke in a calm but domineering tone. You are very cautious, and being cautious is a good thing. If not, you probably wouldn't be able to survive in this crisis-ridden outer city area and achieve your current achievements. But I rarely give gifts to others, and no one had refused the gifts I give. This is just a meeting gift. I, Deng Yuanhua, won't ask anyone to do anything for such a small thing. Hearing this, it would be impolite for Zhang Yi to refuse again. So he placed the box into his alternate space and thanked Deng Yuanhua for his kindness. Well, you have come from afar, so you must be hungry. Let's eat. Satisfied, Deng Yuanhua once again clapped his hands, and suddenly more than a dozen maids came in with plates in their hands. Shortly after, the whole table was filled with lavish meals. The Deng family had their own cooks and stored ingredients. Therefore, the food on the table looked particularly appetizing. Zhang Yi was not polite and picked up his chopsticks to eat. But after a few bites, he found that the ingredients were not fresh, which is understandable. After all, no matter how powerful the Deng family was, they can't enjoy a large amount of luxurious fresh food in the end times. So in this regard, Zhang Yi was much better than them. After the meal, Zhang Yi was invited to Deng Yuanhua's study next door, while Yang Xinxin and Liang Yu followed Lian Cheng to the lounging area opposite next door. In the study, Deng Yuanhua made a few polite remarks and got straight to the point. Zhang Yi, you have no background in Blizzard City. If you want to gain a foothold, you must make some achievements. Zhu Zhang asked you to be the captain of the Tengu squad. Why are you refusing? After a brief consideration, Zhang Yi decided to answer somewhat truthfully. I am used to being free and lazy, doing whatever I want, whenever I want. But if I become a team leader, I have to be controlled by my superiors, which makes me uncomfortable. Deng Yuanhua immediately pointed out that if it's just a matter of being controlled, then even if he was in Tianhai City, he still had to obey the orders of Blizzard City. Hence why he is currently here. Zhang Yi agreed with this assessment but also argued that although that might be the current case, he still had a lot of room for flexibility. Hearing this, Deng Yuanhua was genuinely puzzled. Why was the mindset of most young people nowadays just like yours? They don't seek fame or fortune, they just want to lay low and don't even want the chance to be a leader. Fine then, but if you are asked to be the temporary captain, you will be able to accept it, right? After all, letting you be the captain is the result of many people's joint discussion. Don't worry, as long as you agree to be the temporary captain, I will offer you conditions that you cannot refuse. Zhang Yi frowned slightly, a bit doubtful about this matter as Deng Yuanhua gestured for a cup of tea, poured himself one as well and continued. You mutants from the outer cities have no concept of superpowers and can only blindly use brutal force to improve them, taking many detours. However, my Deng group has been researching the concept of mutation for half a century. This statement took Zhang Yi by surprise. So does that mean mutants also existed half a century ago? Mutation itself is an inevitable thing in the process of biological evolution. It has appeared in every era, but it is only widely known because now is an era of large-scale mutation. So of course, in the past, we studied mutants for the purpose of developing drugs and military use, which made our Deng group a lot of money. We have a mature team that can help you and your partners enhance your strength and develop your potential. What Zhang Yi wanted to know was why Deng Yuanhua was insistent on helping him. Do you want me to become your Deng family's thug or something of that type shit? Because if it's that, then he is sorry but not sorry. He can't do it. Deng Yuanhua laughed lightly when he heard this. Of course not. I wouldn't even have such an idea. After all, if Zhu Zheng's position as investigation team leader wasn't even enough to attract you, then we at the Deng family can't offer a higher price to keep you. Regardless, Zhang Yi wanted to know the real reason, although he could fairly guess by now. What good will it do for Deng Yuanhua to help him? Deng Yuanhua answered truthfully that it was simply to avenge his nephew. Revenge? Zhang Yi inquired. You mean you just want to help me simply to destroy the Eclipse group and make great contributions? Deng Yuanhua remained silent for a brief moment, his face gloomy with a murderous intent clearly evident in his eyes. He stated that the Eclipse group was just a knife that killed his nephew. The real culprit was definitely in Blizzard City. Hearing this, Zhang Yi was genuinely taken aback. Although everything Yang Xinxin speculated and analyzed the night before was extremely plausible, he still had a sliver of hope that that might not be the case. But now, A big shot like Deng Yuanbua, the head of the Deng family, had confirmed all the speculations. Curious, Zhang Yi wanted to know if Deng Yuanbua knew who succeeded in trying to harm Deng Shintong. With a regretful tone, Deng Yuanbua explained that his nephew had been gifted since childhood, and after the end of the world, he became one of the strongest extraordinary people in the entire Jiangnan region under the cultivation of the Deng family, of course. His future was full of hope, so naturally someone will be jealous of him and use the eclipse moon to kill him. Zhang Yi presumed that Deng Yuanbua already knew the culprit, and wondered why the head of the Deng family hadn't taken any action or informed Zhu Zhang, unless the commander-in-chief was the culprit. Deng Yuanbua sighed softly and replied that he didn't know who the culprit was exactly, but he was absolutely sure of one thing, and thus, whoever benefits the most from Deng Shintong's death was the biggest suspect. Everything was exactly as Yang Xinxin speculated, and Zhang Yi really wasn't able to hide his shocked expression. After all, this meant that the director of the operations department, Tu Yunlai, the Samsara Squad or other factions in Blizzard City may be the planners of this action. Even Zhu Zhang couldn't be left out and might just be the promoter.